Welcome, everybody, to another exciting episode of Under the Canopy. I am Russell Owens from DGP, and with me, as always, my co-host, Mark Goldberg, arborist extraordinaire and world-renowned author. Thank you for joining me, Mark. And with
Thanks,
us
Russell.
today is our very special guest, Nathan Davila. Nathan Davila is an urban forestry consultant and arborist with the Davila Resource Group, helping cities and parks as well as larger organizations plan and care for healthier, more resilient urban forests, as well as being a GIS-driven analysis and long-term urban forest planning across the Western United States. With coastal resiliency initiatives, which I love because I spent many years on the Oregon and Washington coast living there.
Cool.
So that's a long overlooked thing, I think, with many forestry programs. But also passionate with storytelling and science. Those two things need to go together more often, I think, Nathan.
Me too.
And best of all, having the intersection of technology, data, and public engagement, which we need. Obviously, technology is a big part of it, but then getting the public behind all of our initiatives in, especially the urban forestry side of things, as everything goes more concrete in this day and age. But also a musician, lifelong musician. So all of this and more. Thank you for joining us, Nathan.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So let's dive right in. How did you get into the tree side? Were you just childhood? Was it after childhood? Was it like Mark, where you're born in the canopy of a tree in an eagle nest?
Were you literally born in the canopy of a tree? That's funny.
Yeah, we tell everybody.
There's a photo of me when I was like 4 or 5 years old, living in Michigan, which was just for like a year of my life. Most of it was in San Diego. And they took a picture of me climbing in a tree. So I've been climbing trees since at least like 4 or 5 years old. No, I mean, I went to school, like I graduated high school, spent some time in and out of college, but seriously went back to become a doctor. I wanted to do like emergency surgeries and whatnot. And so I went full pre-med, went into UCLA after getting an associate's degree in San Diego. And then I was taking earth and environmental as a major because I told myself, if I'm not going to work in a hospital, my backup plan should be to work in the environment and work outside. And so I was taking geology courses and hiking mountains and like the San Bernardino Mountains on the weekend and whatnot. And I'm like, man, I want to work outside. There's so much I could do with the environment. I don't want to be stuck inside of a hospital for the rest of my life. And so I switched to that track. And it wasn't until I graduated, was living in Santa Cruz, somebody that lived on campus where we were living at there worked for Davila Resource Group. I asked him what he was doing and he told me what the job was. And I said, that sounds amazing. And so I got hired with Davy up there on the PG&E contract, and they taught me how to look at trees. I knew nothing about the science of trees or anything prior to 2019 when that was. And yeah, the person training me, Alex Baldwin, I brought a notebook the first day and it was raining in the mountains there. And she's like, sit in front of that tree, use this book, don't use your phone, identify the tree, draw it, do it, whatever you have to do. And then you're just going to go from tree to tree doing that. Yeah, that's literally how I started. It was just tree risk assessments along power lines. Yeah.
I think that's a good start, don't you, Mark?
Yeah, no, I mean, I was talking to Nathan earlier. It's like, I actually got my start in San Diego for a company called Western Environmental Consulting Incorporated, and they audited utility lines. So I stepped into the industry. That's how I got in as well. And it was definitely rewarding.
Yeah, totally.
So you started off that way, and then you got into the consulting side of things with the forest planning.
Yeah.
How did your journey take you from the beginning part? I mean, obviously into trees, doing, along the high lines, and then you got into the planning side. Was that a natural progression, or was that something that you've kind of found out as you went along that you were more into?
Yeah, it was a very unique path. And that's kind of what I tell a lot of people even back then, I recognized that in all of the managers that I was, talking with. And that's what I really like about my company is everyone's totally willing to just like pick up the phone and talk, whether you need advice on something or you're just interested in the work they do. Like, we're all pretty communicative. Yeah, I don't know. I did the tree risk assessments for about 2 years. PG&E was really big. I came down to San Diego County and worked for SDG&E's contract. And then in 2020, there was the big firestorm that happened up in the Bay Area from like all these lightning storms that went off. I went up there, did a lot of good work, helped manage some of that project. And then a few months later, at the beginning of 2021, a director came to me and was like, hey, SDG&E wants to start a tree planting program. Can you help them build it and manage it and run it? And I said, sure. And so for the next 3.5 years, I, helped develop and run that program. And we distributed close to 40,000 trees in 3.5 years. And they were rad because the person that was my manager at SDG&E told me from the beginning, he's like, man, anybody can plant a tree. But what I want you guys to focus on is to make sure that every single person we give a tree to is super well vetted and that they'll actually grow the tree. And so that was the fact that they actually put resources into us doing a good job to make sure that people were growing trees was rad. And I got a lot of experience working with pretty much every city in the county, nonprofits, tribal reservations, you name it, anybody interested in planting trees. It didn't take long for them to figure out that we were giving them out. And yeah, at that point, I wasn't even thinking urban forestry. I knew it was urban forest related, but I was still so new to the industry at that time where I was just working in the utility space. And I was like, this is really cool. This utility company is funding an urban forest tree planting program, but more like a community engagement thing at the same time. It wasn't, bound by a grant, and how grants typically have really strict guidelines for what you can and can't do. We were essentially free to go and give trees where they were needed. And there was a lot of input. It wasn't just our team. We worked with SDG&E's sustainability team that kind of helped guide us on where to go to. And that program ended eventually. I went back to the field for a little bit and worked up in Long Beach in South LA. I live in Oceanside, and so I would commute up there all the time for that. And then this position that I have now opened up within my company, which is on our environmental consulting urban forest planning team. And I didn't really know a whole lot about that, but I interviewed and talked to them, and I really liked the idea of it. And so 2 weeks later, after thinking about it, I'm like, wow, that sounds like a really cool opportunity to work with municipalities and actually dive into urban forest consulting and learn about what that field's about. And so I wrote this really personal email back to the hiring manager, and she called me immediately, was like, let's talk. And then I got the job. And it's really rad because it's a fully remote position that we do travel for, there's all kinds of reasons I would need to go to the city of wherever I'm consulting with. But for the most part,
Sure.
I start every day at my house, and that's where I work right now.
Nice. Yeah.
Are you mostly in Southern California, Nathan?
Where I work and the clients and whatnot? Western United States. So Southern California and Southern Nevada. I work with Las Vegas and North Las Vegas right now, which is a totally unique situation, growing trees where you get sustained temperatures over 100 degrees sometimes for days on end is really challenging. But I could talk about that if you want to.
But it definitely changes, right? Now you're dealing with mesquite trees out there in Nevada,
Oh yeah,
For sure.
it's a totally different ball game. But the kind of cool thing we realized, so for a big service that we provide is either tree inventories, and right now we're doing smart tree inventory, which is LiDAR scanning all the trees instead of just kind of physical arborists on the ground looking at every tree. And then we go back and verify with remote and field inspections, but you end up with this insane amount of data on trees that you never really had before, which is kind of a 3-dimensional data set, anywhere from not just the height of the tree, but the height to the first bifurcation, and then the height of the crown and the width of the crown and the volume of the crown and the live crown ratio or the slenderness. There's so much measurements that come out of that. And I walked into one of our first projects, which was Vegas, where we not only were scanning in that way, but also combining it with an urban forest management plan. And yeah, so I've been on this journey, and at that point, it's whoa, there's this mountain of data, and to really how do you tell the story of 20 or 30 scatter plots in 30 seconds? And for me, that's well, animations. And I'm really a creative person, and so I was able to kind of match the two together, which is what I'm actively doing right now. And thankfully, Esri, ArcGIS products, have some really cool tools in the form of story maps, experience builder, hub websites, all of those 3 things kind of right there are very useful right now in this kind of stage where we're exploring how to take an excessive amount of data and whittle it down. And I literally think about it like creating a movie, right? You can create even for this podcast, you're going to have a 30-minute YouTube video, but that's not your only form of promoting it. You're going to make shorts on it.
Right.
That's literally what I'm thinking with this right now, is taking the mountain of data, which inevitably is going to be a UFMP, but then splicing it down into smaller segments and making it bite-sized for community engagement for people to learn about what the city is doing. Yeah, that's kind of the direction our team is thinking, is like urban forest storytelling.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I like the thinking process that you have of that forward thinking of not just making this data bite size for clients that you're working with in those municipalities, but your focus is also on the general public because it's so hard to many times when you're dealing with scientific things to, especially on a large scale in urban forestry and things of that nature, to really make it understandable for folks where they
Yeah,
wanna get in with it. There's so many people where they ask questions why, like, "What's happening with this? What's happening with the forest?" Or, forestry, especially in California, all the big fires and everything, and every
sure.
once in a while, you have that moment of the topic, as it were, of forest management, that gets kind of tossed around in general, but, people don't really know what that really means, so it's awesome that you guys are actually gonna be able to start moving forward with that kind of data that nobody, I don't think, has really seen before.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah. I don't know. It's a fun time. I'll say recently I went to the California Native Plant Society's conference in Riverside. It happened a couple of weeks ago. And I connected with the Esri team that was there because I don't know if you know this, but Esri's headquarters in Redlands, which is like super close to Riverside and really close to here in San Diego. And their senior marketing director was there. And all in all, like the whole team that was at that booth really got me turned on to the idea of communicating with that network more, especially because I'm like really pushing the boundary on we just built, I have a client who's, I can't say who they are, which is really funny to say that, but I built a website for them for their urban forest operations, basically. And it was a urban forest and landscape master plan that we originally were going to deliver as a PDF, right? Just that's traditionally how they're delivered in the past couple of decades. But the in the middle of the project, their management changed. So the sitting urban forester left, a new one came in. And he's like, at some point, a decision was made about a couple months before I walked onto the project. And they were like, no, we want to make a website. And our team was like, well, why don't we try ArcGIS Hubs? And so the person who hired me back in October of 2024, like 2 weeks after I started, basically had to leave because of medical reasons and retired. And so all of those projects of this really experienced person were left to me and the other person who was hired at the same time. And this was one of them. And the end result was this really cool website that was connected to all the data in GIS. But it was an urban forest management plan. And so that's kind of the new model going forward, at least like kind of close to me, is figuring out like those traditional 150-page documents, how to put them into a website format and deliver those out. And the world is your oyster when you really look at it in that way of how many different audiences can we think of that would need to see this, not just for me to show them, but for the urban forester, if he's going to go into city council and advocate for more resources and there's a story to tell about why he needs it. There's, use a story map. You could create as the more you make them, the quicker it gets to do it. And that's kind of that direction right now. Just cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mark, have you guys used any of that as far as the LiDAR or anything like that for your urban forestry programs you've worked with?
Yeah, I mean, it a little bit. It depends where I'm at with the municipality now. Yeah, the what we're doing now compared to what I was using even 5 years ago, right now and 10 years back is amazing. So I can totally understand, Nathan, what you're doing for the urban forests out there. The Lorax would be quite happy for sure because just
It's my
it's
cousin.
crazy what's available now for urban forestry now and the tools, and it's pretty awesome. And I agree with you, Nathan. What you can really tell a story now, so much more than a PDF, right? You walk in there and
Yeah.
you're going in there and you're telling a story, and it has graphics like that. And what you want to do is you want to get buy-in from your audience, which is at the end of the day, it's the resident of that city.
Right.
And the more you can do with artificial intelligence and data collection and stuff like that really separates what you're doing from everybody else, for sure.
Yeah. I've been told, because the whole smart tree inventory product that we have, I think we first started scanning in 2024, so we're into our second year of it right now. And it's cheaper than a traditional inventory. And so the kind of model we have set up is you buy 2 scans at once, and the 2 scans happen within about 2 years of each other. Yeah, and you could do more than that, but so far that's kind of like that first pilot model we've been pushing out there. And so for Vegas and North Vegas, we're about to do the second scan, and that's gonna allow us to not just have that, like not excessive, but what's a better word for it? Just a really comprehensive set of data about the trees, but it gives you the change analysis. And so that's what I'm really excited about for this year, is to have those two data sets and then the other cities that other managers are involved with. And they're kind of against the grain as well. Traditionally, you do an inventory and then you do an inventory analysis and tell the city, like, okay, this is how many your top genus you have and the top performing species and what the age of your forest looks like. Well, on the second scan, we can quickly do that because the model and the spreadsheets are all kind of really fresh to be able to just kind of plug and play. That you then get the analysis of like, how are your trees actually performing in the last 2 years? And that comes with its own set of graphics that are really going to be fun to explore. And again, just we have our own software. Like Davy has Tree Keeper, which is a really cool tree inventory software that has like work management stuff built into it. And our partner Greehill that we use has the really cool like 3D modeling and allows you to see all the measurements on this kind of little 3D viewport thing. And that's where I really want to dive into taking those and putting them into ArcGIS Hub so that you can then tell the story, right? That's kind of the direction we're going right now.
That's really cool. So is this
Yeah.
something that you see uh, becoming more and more popular on just as folks come into, the arborist side of training and education when they move through the different ranks? Do you see this type of technology being used earlier on in the process, education wise?
Specifically for the field urban forestry, if we're angling it like that, yeah, like you really need to know because it's a really niche field. I mean, I've been in it for going on my second year now, so take it for what it is. But from my perspective, it's niche, right? There's not too many urban forest consultants out in the field. I feel like I'm one of a few. And relatively, when you look at like how many arborists and foresters there are in the world.
Sure.
That being said, for the group of us and for anybody that walks into this field, yeah, you need to be really on point with understanding the tools for GIS. Because if you work for a company like us, like I have a GIS team, right? Like I'm not doing the land cover analysis or the priority planting analysis, but I need to know what they're doing just so I can understand what that product means. And so if anyone's listening to this that is like in college or freshly into the field, like definitely pick up GIS immediately and start learning how to use that tool and the many ways that kind of go into that. Other than that, yeah, I think the cool thing for me about the LiDAR data and having kind of quantifiable information about trees is, I mean, if you've ever taken or understand the concept of tree risk assessment and the best management practices, the terms that you use are like likelihood of failure, very probable or improbable. They're very squishy qualitative terms, right? And it's on purpose because like who can truly guess when a tree is going to fall? But by using those
Sure.
visual cues with your eyes and maybe a sounding tool, or if you have a level 3 like tomography kind of sounding unit, that's a whole nother ball game. But at the end of the day, tree risk assessments are typically qualitative in nature. They're very subjective to who the person is measuring the tree with their eyes and the feeling and everything you get from trees. And that's what it is. So with this new data set, it allows us to kind of jump away from that and go, no, we're not going to give you a good or a fair or a critical condition score. We're going to tell you what the exact measurements of the trees are. And then we're going to teach you, the forester, how to make your own determination from that so that your decisions about how to manage your forest are informed and you're not just kind of guessing based on experience. That's a totally new ball game that we're opening up right now, I feel like.
Well, I was going to jump into it.
Yeah.
And, I'm going to probably show how old I am here with this comment. But I mean, when I stepped into, arboriculture, the technology has just went crazy, only for the better for everybody, right? And so, like Nathan was saying, for anybody coming in that's interested in arboriculture or urban forestry, yeah, the more savvy you are with technology, the better you're going to do in your career, and definitely the better you're going to do in urban forestry and arboriculture, because it's not like it used to be. Like I remember, and this makes me laugh that I used to do this stuff, was homeowners associations. I would go out there and, well, first I would do is I'd find a map of the HOA on paper. Then I would go to the photocopier in the office and I'd max it out as big as I could get. And I'd walk out to this HOA with this giant map that I created, right? And then I'd have like 10 different color markers. And then everything, like Canary Island pine, I would call it CIP, right? Brazilian pepper, BP. and I'd have all these letters on these maps. And that's how I used to map, back in the day. So it's like now it's like, you open up your laptop or get on your computer and you walk on the field with my phone and stuff. And I'm literally open up icons and all that information is there about the tree. You're creating lists and it's just, it really makes managing so much easier now, right? Like how many trees, I remember back in the day be like, hey, how many pine trees or how many Canary Island pines do we have on this HOA? And I'd be like, oh, let me count. And now it's just like, right now it's just like, oh, you got 46, and this is the DBH and this is the canopy size. So that's what's really awesome about where we're headed with technology. And unfortunately, there's definitely folks that either said, nah, I'm not doing that. And they kind of got put to, as a dinosaur. I call myself a dinosaur, but at the same time, I've accepted the fact that if this dinosaur wants to live, I got to learn technology, right? Unfortunately, folks my age get to a point where they're like, no, I don't want to learn anymore. It's like, well, unfortunately, that's where your career just comes to a massive halt, and that's it. You can't move on. So you got to be open to the technology. And I'm always learning. And I think that's what's great about our industry.
Totally. It's a lot, even to keep up with it as like someone who's actively in it right now. It takes a lot of dedication and time for sure. And I don't know. I know we mentioned AI a little bit, and I'll just say for that, we talk about it a lot because it's evolving so fast and just within our team alone, it's been a process of like, you don't really talk about the fact that you're exploring it and using it a little bit. Cause at the end of the day, if you're going to use any of the AI tools that help you with analysis or anything like that, it's not perfect and it's not always accurate. And that's kind of that like basic 101. If you're going to use AI, you better check it. Like that's my best advice to anybody listening to this is, think about it this way. I'm a project manager. And if I give work to someone, I'm like, hey, this is the task, draft it out, and then I'm going to review it. When I give something to AI, it's really flashy and it happens so fast and it's really impressive and it sounds good. And you're like, wow, I believe everything that just said. But if you believe it, right, you're going to get in trouble. And people have, because they call it hallucinating, but it just like the first time I tried using it and I'm like, I'm trying to research how to grow trees in the desert. Right. And then I'm like, give me some research articles that I can go and review, but kind of point me in that direction. And I was really just treating it like another Google. And so I did that and I'm like, went to go search it. And I'm like, I can't find this article anywhere. What? And then I went back to the chat engine and I'm like, where did you get this from? Like, give me the exact link. And it was like, well, I kind of looked for similar research articles and grouped them together and titled it what I thought it would be. I'm like, oh my God, you can't use this for that. Then you can. So what I've done since then, you can train even like Chat GPT is exactly what I was using back then. And tell it like, do not give me anything unless it's a very specific link. And then you check it, right? You have to verify all of it. And I've heard of stories recently where I don't know if it was exactly this, but I think it was a city that may have gotten sued because somebody they consulted with used AI to write something and exactly that scenario I just told you, but they published it. And somebody who knew the professor that was involved in that called it, was like, that's not a subject I've ever seen this person report on. And sure enough, that's what happened. And so be careful if you're going to use it and make sure you're doing your work behind it.
Oh yeah. A lot of story is told through song and through music. And as you mentioned at the very beginning here, you've been a lifelong musician and continuing on with that. Tell us a little bit about your journey with music and how that kind of, merges with what you do. Cause obviously nature, there's a lot of music just in general in nature itself.
Well, guitars are made of trees. So there's a connection there.
Exactly.
It's made of wood. Yeah. I've, just had opportunities because I'm involved since at like conferences and whatnot to play guitar. And so any chance I get to kind of like throw that in the mix, I do. I've definitely mixed. So if I go and speak at a conference, which I've done periodically over the last couple of years, I always offer that on the side to like the event organizers, like, hey, I'm coming to present. If you want me to play guitar too, I will. And then they just a lot of times like, really? Like, yeah, that sounds great. And then I'll just bring my guitar with me and set it up. And my style, I've been climbing trees since 5, but I've also, believe it or not, been playing guitar since I was 5. More seriously, I started when I was 12 years old, but I just jam. Like I can learn a song and I'll, if a song really touches me and I want to like learn it real quick, I will. But yeah, California Native Plant Society, Renee Murphy and I did a workshop together. And so while she taught a propagation course, I played acoustic guitar in the background for the people in the room
Oh,
and
nice.
her. And originally, it was supposed to just be in the breaks in between. She was going to like split the workshop up into 4 different segments, and I would play in between. Then after the first segment, I played guitar, and then she's like, "Can you just play for the whole thing? Because it's too quiet when you're not playing now." So I played guitar literally for like 3 hours straight for that class.
That's
It's
great.
just, yeah, it's my like therapy. It's not hard. I just kind of like speak through it and have fun with it. It's good.
Awesome. That's cool. Yeah. Well, you gotta hook us up with a song for our podcast here. Be
Oh
desperate
yeah,
for
yeah.
some
I forgot we talked about
some
that. I
music.
could totally. That'd be fun. Yeah, I don't know. And just on a life level, like I know we talked about this before, and I could bring it up real quick. Something as fast as my journey has been with forestry and arboriculture, right? Like I started in 2019 in Santa Cruz and went through so many different phases of growth and not to plug Davy, but Davy's rad because there's just so many opportunities everywhere. And you go where the work is. Sometimes you do have to say yes to traveling. And if you're willing to do that a little bit, like there's a lot of fun things you can do. And I have been blessed with a great career. At the same time though, I was, building the tree planting program. I built a tree risk assessment course for utility purposes with Butte College, and was traveling up to Chico to work with like Kevin Ecker and kind of leaders in the industry that are like pretty polished in arboriculture. During that whole time, my daughter, who was 4 years old at that time, back in early 2022, like super random, just had a brain tumor. And I know that's like an insane thing for
Oh,
people to think about. While I was going through all this like massive career growth, simultaneously, like she had a tumor removed from her brain and then had a spinal surgery the following year. Just like really insane, all of a sudden, medical issues that are not foreign to most people. I think a lot of people silently are dealing with that. And the best thing, if you have a kid out there that goes through that, like they just want to play and they're so resilient. And she luckily got through that. But um, yeah, it's a yin and yang is real. And so if you feel like you're going through a ton, like lean into the opposite side of that at the same time, but also give yourself like humility, or I guess be humble, not humble, give yourself grace. That's what we always say, is like,
there you
just get, if you like anxiety and everything and the pressures of life are like so real, it's important to acknowledge that in yourself and don't do it alone at the same time. Like you don't have to go out and blast it to the world. And I don't think social media is the best place to get help for that by any means at all. But like just have people you can talk to about it at least, and try to be healthy, work out, like go on runs or swim or do whatever you can to like be outside if you're not an arborist that gets to work outside like we are. But yeah, I wanted to share that for anybody listening as well.
Absolutely, man. Thank you so much for sharing that, and thanks for sharing the story too. About your daughter. I appreciate your openness with that and putting that out there, but
It's
also
just,
in how you framed it. That's people don't often understand, like you just said. A lot of people are going through things that no one else knows about, and
yeah.
having that kindness and that caring with just everyone you're around and being centered in that is what we should all strive for. So thank you for sharing that and your thoughts as well. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's a good way to kind of summarize the message there, is that, and because it made me wonder, like there's times where it was like so many things after another, and even like my wife going through her own medical stuff now, it's like you think you get a break and then something else comes along. Yeah, it makes
Right.
me wonder, how many people do I work with that are also going through something, is because it can't just be me, and I don't believe it is. Yeah, always be nice to anybody you're working with, communicate, yeah, all of that. I think it's the best thing too for like work advice, is just communication is like the most important thing, especially for someone like myself that's remote working, or I work with so many different clients. Being consistent with your communication, like, and punctual. That was something back in college when I was at Mesa. Mrs. Kessinger, Professor Kessinger was her name. And she just kind of drilled that into the class, was like, in your emails, in your text, everything you do, just communicate very punctually and professionally, even if it's short, like, hi, name, give the body, thank you, done. Like, just if you consistently do that, it looks better. And I noticed that if someone's like just kind of shorthand responding versus like professionally responding, it stands
Yeah,
out
for sure.
for sure. Yeah.
Well, as we wind things down here, Mark, which you got closing thoughts here, Mark, for us?
I was gonna How's your daughter now, Nathan?
She's okay. I'm not gonna lie. She deals with pain every day. It's a really wild experience as a parent to see your kid go through that, and it's just kind of part of her journey. I don't know. But so even though that is happening, the bright side of it is that she's in hip hop and dance classes, and she does gymnastics, and she's like in the choir and band. Like she's so active and just out there, regardless of the pain that she goes through. And I know how much pain she goes through because she complains about it. Believe me. But she's at the same time just like whatever and keeps going and doesn't let her slow her down. And she's 8, so it's like wow, like that alone gives me kind of like if she can do it, I can go through whatever BS I'm feeling right now as well. So
Oh,
thanks for asking on that. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Nathan, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. We definitely need to
absolutely.
have you back on. I mean, I know it was a quick chat, but there's so much that we can cover, so many different aspects of everything. So definitely want to have you back on, and we look forward to you sharing some music with us. Do you have music anywhere on like online or anything as far as anybody can find somewhere that you've put it up? Or
Yeah, there's a couple ways you could find it. So Spotify's an easy one, like my name, Nathan Davila. You'll find music there that I've done more recently. There's another one with a funny name called Alien Collective Art Space. And that has some different music of mine, which is eventually all of that's going to get migrated over. It was the first one I did. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do one named Nathan Davila. You can find it there. Yeah. I think
Perfect.
kind of just in response to what you said about another podcast, I think after I get finished with this year, really, there's going to be some cool like developments in the storytelling part of my work. I could reach back out, or if you want to reach out later in the year
Oh,
and just be like,
absolutely.
hey, how's that going? I'll have something more public that I can share
Yeah,
that,
for
that
sure.
belongs to a city, but it's going to be public basically. We could
Yeah,
actually
no worries.
discuss it.
No worries. Yeah, no, that'd be cool. I really look forward to that. That would be awesome. But
Cool.
we'll definitely be in touch on that side, and we'll share some music. And I'll make sure to put the link to your music in the description for this
Okay.
podcast as well, for all those watching and or listening to that also. So, but with that being said, Mark, do you have anything else to add before we sign out of here?
No, Nathan, I know you're running around like a turkey, so I appreciate you giving us the time today to meet with us. And it really is nice to have a conversation outside of LinkedIn. I feel like every time I see your post, I'm giving you a thumbs up and stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us and actually meeting you.
Yeah. Thanks for reaching out. I'm happy to be here and talk.
All right, folks, that is all we have for today with the Under the Canopy podcast. I want to thank our special guest. I was about to say my co-host and then say special guest, did it backwards. I want to thank co-host and brother-in-arms here, Mark Goldberg, for, as always, being an intrepid partner in this wild journey we have in Under the Canopy. And thanks to special guest, Nathan. Thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you on in the near future.
All right. Have a good night, guys.
Thanks, Nathan. Appreciate it.